So today I want to go ahead and do a review of K&N Intake. So I'll go ahead and start with the Jeep I have here. It's a Grand Cherokee 2002. So this review, it's really going to be for any sort of intake that you get. You can get plenty of other intakes on the market. There's a lot of different options. Where it differs is there's going to be cold air intake options as well. The difference with a cold air intake, other than its functionality, is going to be that you should make adjustments to your computer if you are going to do a cold air intake, especially in a situation where you have a mass airflow sensor and stuff like that. You need to tell the computer what is happening. A generic K&N, intake that's just going to improve off of stock, you shouldn't have to make any adjustments. It's not going to do anything like that. So that's kind of the pro behind just getting a regular sort of intake, but it is a really easy bolt-on way to add performance to your vehicle. So I'll go ahead and start with my Grand Cherokee. I've had this for a little while. I've had the K&N on there for a few months now, so I've gotten a good feel of the major differences. The main thing I like about K&N, and I'm sure a lot of other companies do this as well, but firsthand experience and the reason why I was able to keep coming back to them when I ultimately went into doing it on my Camaro was that they gave you tested performance on a dyno. I really appreciate the fact that I know I have guaranteed horsepower that it's supposed to add, and I think that's a great example. It comes with a chart. The other thing I really thoroughly enjoyed about this K&N is that on this specific car, it was an incredibly easy install. Like I was taking my time, I was doing other things. I had replaced the throttle body at the same time, and still, even with replacing the throttle body and all the connections in there, it was still like a 30-minute process. All the mounting points are going to be exactly where you already have drill points. So this one is maybe the most difficult, and I only say that just because you have to reach up from the bottom and go ahead and get a bolt down here. And so you have to be a little limber, I guess, or have a little bit longer arms. Honestly, not that big of a deal. Taking out the old one, super easy. It's also one part, and then you just throw on the filter. So this went on super fast, bolted right in, and it just went right there on the cap. So I had a great experience putting this one on and immediately seeing the feedback. Now, the old intake I had, it did have its own issues. In my disassembly of the old one, I found that there was a crack at the top of the housing. So no matter what, I wasn't getting the ideal performance out of what I had, but I knew the second this was in that I was getting immediate results. So the one obvious bonus is going to be the sound. The sound is amazing. It's great under acceleration. It makes a very deep, throaty kind of sound, and it's great coming out of a inline six Cherokee. So that's definitely a plus, but there's definitely an immediate peppiness that you get out of it. And so if you have, just your run-of-the-mill SUV like this, first car, maybe something just to tool around in like me, then this is an easy bolt-on immediate improvement. And even if you're not looking for a whole lot of gains, just having something a little bit more reliable as far as the filter, this lasts for 100,000 miles guaranteed before you even have to clean it. It's million-mile warranty. It's insane. So definitely worth putting the time, the effort into it. If you're in California, you do need these little additional carb cards as well, but super easy bolt-on performance additive, and I would highly recommend it. So what I will say is that once you start looking at something with a little bit more horsepower stock, that's when you might want to start looking into different things and different examples. So I'll go into why I immediately threw this on, really just because of the good experience with the Grand Cherokee, but it was a little different in this case, and I still enjoy it. I still think it's great. It still makes a great sound. But I will say, if you are going to get this for, say you have a Mustang or another Camaro or something similar, it's not going to be an immediate power increase that you would see with something like the SUV over here. Because this, and you can look at it on the chart, because this out of the box only has, 153 horsepower to the wheels in a dyno test, you going up a guaranteed, 10, 14, 7, whatever the horsepower is, it's not going to be, or it is going to be a lot more noticeable than a situation where you already have over 300 horsepower. So I would keep that in mind. Obviously 10 horsepower and something that only makes 150 is going to show, as opposed to 10 extra horsepower and something that makes 300. So that is something I would keep in mind if you are going to add this to, a more muscly car. Just don't expect immediate results. I know a lot of people say these are really good for bolt-on performance, which they are. It just depends on what your application is. So I still thoroughly enjoy it. I still think it's a great addition to the Camaro. I still feel the results. It's just not as dramatic as it was when I had it on the Grand Cherokee. So another thing I will note is, like I was saying on the Grand Cherokee, it sounds really great. It's got that really deep sound, and it's just really enjoyable to listen to while you're accelerating. It's not like droney, it's only for acceleration once RPM is going, increasing, because obviously it's bringing in that air. And once you get to that steady, 65 miles per hour or so, it just goes back to being a normal engine. With this, same thing, when you're accelerating, it sounds amazing. The only thing I didn't like so much about this case is, because it's more of, a muscly vehicle, it has that really great sound when you're accelerating. But then once you start getting to that steady RPM, 65 miles per hour, then it doesn't make the sound anymore, because it's not bringing in the air. It's not trying to power itself up. It's just going. And maybe that's what you enjoy. Maybe you want that peppiness at, low speeds where you're going light to light or something. You want that loud noise, that kind of attention grab. And then once you're driving, you don't want it as much. That's completely fine. But what I will say is, after driving this for only a couple weeks with it on there, I immediately wanted to get an exhaust for it. And some of you may already have a newer exhaust that is already making plenty of noise. And that's probably the best situation for it. But I will say, you're probably, if you're going to buy this for something more muscly, you're going to want an exhaust or a nicer exhaust down the road, unless you're just enjoy the quiet. But most cases, you're going to be buying this because you want that muscly sound. So I did thoroughly enjoy it. I will say this one has a lot more individual parts. So if you remember on the Cherokee, it is one long tube that just is a hat on top of the throttle body, and then it's got the filter on it. Whereas this is more of a mass production sort of situation. They probably have this part for many units of theirs. They probably have this same elbow for tons of other cars. So I didn't like that aspect of it. It didn't really feel as specific for my vehicle, but it also makes it a little easy to move things around to make it a little bit more custom. The other issue that I kind of had is this one took a little longer to assemble because of those multiple different points, but also because the mass airflow sensor didn't actually fit 100% properly. So if I wanted to do it the good way, I probably should have drilled and honed it a little bit, which I didn't. I just kind of screwed it as tight as I can, and I know there's a good seal on it, but it didn't just fall into place like I expected. So this specific one comes for 2010, 11, and then also 12, and I believe 13, are all the same order number. And this is if I had a 2012 or a 2013, it's just a different mass airflow sensor. But what I'm talking about being off is this opening was just a tiny bit too small for my mass airflow sensor. So that was a little annoying. But other than that, it snapped in really easily. It came with some extra hose for this part here. I did have to do some cutting just to make it sit a little flat, but not a big deal. So easy installation. There's definitely performance there, I'm sure, at the top end. Obviously the chart shows it, but it's just not as dramatic as if you were to get an SUV. So if I was to do a full review of, a recommendation, I would say absolutely get this for your more muscle-based cars if you're looking at getting exhaust. That's my personal feel to it, because otherwise you're going to get annoyed with that loud, awesome noise that you get really excited about, and then all of a sudden it's just quiet again. So I would definitely look into this. If you're getting exhaust, don't expect immediate performance increases. Just it chips away. If you're going to get a throttle body, you're going to get some horsepower there. If you're going to get a new intake, you're going to get some horsepower there. It's worth doing, but just don't expect like one bolts-on piece to solve all, unless you're putting nitrous or something. And so if you have something more SUV type, maybe you have a little pickup or something like that, I would absolutely recommend getting this, or any other brand, but specifically K&N I've had some great experiences with. Super easy install, so just keep that in mind. So I wanted to do a part where I was driving it so you can hear it on the audio, but it doesn't come through that well, so I don't want to waste any time with that. But I'll do more videos like this. I'll go, different reviews of different upgrades I've done to my vehicles. So I have 4. So I have the Jeep Grand Cherokee, Camaro, and then I have 1923 T-Bucket, and then a 1979 K10 in the back. So plenty of different vehicles to show different stuff on. I'll do real basic stuff, changing oil, changing spark plugs, and kind of get more advanced from there, just showing different things, and maybe eventually I'll show what I'm gonna do with this engine. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.